Hello, my name is Phil Easter, historian and writer from Baltimore, Maryland, also known as the Amazing Memory Man. We're recording this evening on Monday, May 13th, 2024. My story tonight is about the recent protest on college campuses around the USA regarding the war in the Middle East, Hamas and Israel. On October 7th, 2023, Hamas attacked Israel on a day when thousands of young people were attending a concert, some type of music concert, and about 1,200 people were killed that day and several hundred taken hostage. That was the most number of Jewish people killed in one day since the Holocaust of World War II, when Nazi Germany killed as many as 6 million Jews over a period of 4 to 5 years. This completely unprovoked attack by Hamas, a terrorist group, they don't deserve to be even considered a nation, as some people are acting like they should be considered a country, a nation. They're a terrorist group. Israel has been attacked before in wars in the 1960s and early 70s. I remember the 1967 war when I was a freshman in high school, and also the war in 1973. But these were countries like Egypt and Jordan and Syria, in some cases, actual armies fighting the Israeli army. But Hamas is a terrorist organization like others, like Al-Qaeda and ISIS. They mix in with civilians and then strike quickly and then go back to the cover of their civilians. And then if people attack them and unfortunately have to kill some civilians in the process, then they shout to the whole world how Israel is killing civilians. There are many tunnels in Gaza, many tunnels in that area of Gaza, and including the city of Rafah, where many of these hostages have been held and where Hamas organizes their attacks, makes their plans to attack Israel. So there have been many college protests throughout American history. I remember in the 1960s, there were protests against the Vietnam War and for the civil rights movement. And I've always felt that people absolutely have the right to protest, including the young students today. However, it should be done peacefully, not causing violence or destruction of property. And at Columbia University a few weeks ago, they took over Hamilton Hall, and over the next several weeks, property was damaged. And in UCLA in California, the police have had to arrest hundreds of students. And in the state of Texas and Florida, and here in Baltimore at Johns Hopkins University, there were protests for about 2 weeks, and an encampment was set up in front of the Milton Eisenhower Library, the grassy area. But fortunately, at least the Hopkins students here were fairly peaceful. But on many other campuses, it was not the case. And I think the Israeli Prime Minister, in a recent television interview with Dr. Phil, who went to Israel for that special interview of the Israeli Prime Minister, the Prime Minister pointed out how many young people's knowledge of history and historical events may go back to what they had for breakfast this morning. Maybe. Well, you might say it's a bit of an exaggeration, but the point is, many of these young people really have not studied history well at all. They just take bits and pieces of a few situations and apply that, not understanding the full breadth of the situation, how certain people have been oppressed years ago, and the atrocities that were committed against the Jewish people during the Holocaust. And I know there have been negotiations. The Biden administration has actually criticized Israel for the heavy bombing of Rafah, where a number of civilians have been killed, unfortunately. But the Israeli forces are very much trying to just get Hamas. As I said before, many times they mingle with civilians, unfortunately. And there's no reason on these college campuses for the students to break laws and hold the buildings hostage, so to speak, and other students feel intimidated sometimes. And what's really sad is that graduations are now commencing in many parts of the country in the month of May. Most colleges have graduations in May, and the UCLA in particular canceled their graduation ceremony. And how sad it is for many of those young students that 4 years ago, in 2020, they could not have a proper high school graduation because of COVID. 2020 was the year it was so bad, and there were no vaccinations yet. And so many activities like the proms, the prom dances, and the graduations were canceled. And now, 4 years later, they couldn't have a proper college graduation for their family and friends to enjoy seeing them get their diplomas in front of a large crowd, all because of the students who protest so radically. You know, the administration felt like it wasn't safe. But I'm glad not all campuses have canceled their graduations. Now at Duke University in North Carolina, just yesterday, on Sunday, May 12th, the famous comedian Jerry Seinfeld was invited to speak at that graduation some time ago. As many of you may recall, he had a popular TV show back in the 80s, and he was invited to speak there, but several hundred students walked out. He did announce that he supported Israel in this war, but still he wasn't, I don't think, talking about that so much at the graduation. He was talking about other things, and still the students walked out. So here in Baltimore, I would say that protests at Johns Hopkins just ended yesterday, after about 2 weeks, that encampment they called it. But in many other parts of the country, they're still going on. And they actually threatened to disrupt some graduations in other colleges around the country. So in summation, the students have the right to demonstrate for what they believe in. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But please conduct yourselves properly. Do not cause violence or destruction of property. That is not right. It's your American right to protest, but not to destroy things. This is Phil Easter, the Amazing Memory Man. We'll see you next time. Another story on another subject. Thank you and good evening.